Hello, my name is Briar. Welcome to my writing channel where I am talking about my journey as a writer, things that I'm learning, and hopefully the pathway that I am making towards publication eventually. Today, I wanted to talk about three and a half, four-ish kinds of writing advice that I have received and chucked out the window because I know those don't work for me. A little disclaimer here at the front. These are things that I know do not work for my brain. These might be the things that help you be a better writer, but they don't help me at all. And that's important because these are the things that I have learned don't work for my brain. Before I get too far into this, I do want to say thank you for clicking on this video. If you would like to follow along on my writing journey, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we can get right into it. That sounds weird. I don't know if I like to do that front promo. The first piece of advice that I've received that I have completely done away with is the advice to write every day. This seems like very innocuous, very good advice. You're trying to build up a practice. You're trying to make yourself into the habit of being a writer. And habits are what gets you the little steps into making it into something grand and finished. However, I have ADHD, and if I try to sit down and do the same thing every day on a schedule, I can do that for maybe a month and a half if I'm being generous and lucky. And then I get bored and something has to change. So instead of trying to write every day, I try to do something related to my writing business every day. Whether that means I'm drafting in a notebook, whether that means I'm sitting at my computer and typing, whether that means I am daydreaming about my characters or creating character boards and inspiration things on Pinterest, if I'm building a playlist on YouTube of things that inspire me or remind me of my characters or my story, I don't have to be putting words on a page to be building the habit of writing. And I don't have to be meeting some arbitrary metric of write every day. I think it's BS. The second piece of writing advice that I received and have since tossed out the window is thinking about grammar at all when I'm writing. That seems counterintuitive because you kind of need good grammar for people to read and understand your story, especially if you're not using the correct grammar. People might not understand exactly what you're trying to say, and it can be confusing. It can take the reader out of the story. They're not going to read something with bad grammar because they're not going to understand what's going on. There's a reason we have grammar rules, but there's also a reason that edits exist and revising exists. And so if I'm writing a story and I'm thinking about what's happening, but it's not formulating for me in complete sentences with correct grammar, then I'm going to write yada, 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 they did this, 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 this. It might be a real long run-on sentence. It might be complete fragments. It might just be little bits and pieces of things that sort of make sense, like bulleted lists of things that are happening. And then I can go back and fix that later. But when drafting, when actively writing a project, I don't think about grammar at all. I don't care. The third piece of writing advice that I have tossed out the window is any sort of advice that tries to yuck your yum when it comes to writing process. By that, I mean, if you are a very successful plotter, you plot out your story and you write your story following that plot for the most part. Or someone is a very successful pantser and they're very good at sitting down and just creating the story in a zero draft kind of version and making everything beautiful and make sense. And then they try to give you the advice that you should write like them because they're good at it. That's the kind of writing advice that I toss out the window. Especially because, again, I am very ADHD. My brain does not hold on to systems and routines very well. So every single project that I have ever worked on, I have written with a different process. I have done extensive plotting and followed that plot very religiously to make a successful story. I have completely pantsed everything with just an idea of, well, this character and this kind of scenario seems cool, so let's mush them together and see what happens. Very successful at finishing a story like that. I've done hybrid written by the headlights, which is what I'm kind of doing now. But anyone giving you advice to follow one specific pattern and that's how you're going to write and that's how you're going to be successful as a writer, as an author, toss that out the window because they don't have your best interest at heart. They have theirs. And you need to find what works for you. And I found what works for me is not honestly having a set system. I mean, admittedly, I haven't published anything yet, so that might change. But at this point in my life, any advice that someone gives me of you should plot or you should pants or you should do some system to make your writing finish, there's that bad grammar that I don't care about. Any sort of advice like that, I don't care. In one ear and out the other. I don't care what you have to say about that. I might listen to your advice about other things. That's why I like AuthorTube, because so many people can share this is what works for me kind of videos and ideas, and it's not necessarily prescriptive. They're describing what works for them. They're descriptive success stories, anecdotes of this worked for me, this process worked for me, maybe it will work for you. But anything that says you have to follow this method, I'm not a fan. And I'm going to throw that out the window. That sort of ties into my fourth piece of writing advice, which I have stopped listening to. Any advice that is coming from someone telling me to do this or fail, I'm not going to listen to. Part of that is just that I'm contrary and against authority. And part of that is I don't know if our writing processes and styles even align. So why would I do what you say? So I sit here and share my successes. This is what has worked for me. I share that because I know that I'm always looking for new ideas of what is working for other people so that maybe I can apply that to me. But it's not going to be ride or die. It's not going to be this or that. It's providing more options for the buffet. So yeah, that's the 3.5, 4 kinds of writing advice that I don't listen to anymore because I am always growing as a writer. I am always learning as a writer. I am always looking for advice and tips and tricks and what's been working for other people. But I know that some things are just not going to work for me. And that's something that I've learned in my decade plus writing seriously. So, what are some pieces of writing advice that you know don't work for you? Do any of the things that I have absolutely stopped listening to, are those things that you live by? Are those things that you work for? That you work for? That work for you? I would love to hear any additional advice that you've tossed out the window. What is something that you know doesn't work for your brain and your style? Share it in the comments down below. I would love to hear it. And I will see you guys in my next video.